Bishop, we're back this afternoon while most people are preoccupied with the kangaroo court that is attempting to remove the rightfully elected president of the United States. You join us once again to talk about some of the origins of some very surprising institutions that people may well be familiar with. How are you today, Bishop?
I am doing great, Jason. Thank you so much for this great opportunity.
Well, it's excellent to have you back, Bishop. I know that people are taking a great interest in the shows that we've been doing together because I think we're hitting on something maybe that hasn't exactly been done this way before, because as I see it, you and I coming together, we're bridging a gap between two demographics in terms of age, race, different demographics like that, that I think is very important in terms of having a conversation, trying to break down these barriers that you've been telling us about that are put in place by the people that basically want to control us all.
Absolutely. And, Jason, I think Black America and a great percentage of America has been lied to. We've been played, I would say, for the past 75 to 100 years. And I really want to continue this eugenics series on a topic that is indeed probably one of the most powerful and insightful series I have ever taught in 25 years of radio, and that would be eugenics of identity politics. Again, eugenics of identity politics. And we're going to unpack this slowly, beginning today, exposing the origins and the history of both the Nation of Islam and the Church of Scientology, and more and likely, specifically today, the Nation of Islam, because there's so much to unpack here. So I'm really looking forward to actually for us delving into this topic. Very powerful.
I am as well, and I know our audience is too. Before we begin, I do want to let everybody know that they can hear you on liferadionj.com/Gaiters. You're actually simulcast all over the nation and have millions of listeners. Isn't that correct, Bishop?
Absolutely. And we're also internationally syndicated through the iHeartRadio network in the iHeartRadio group. Media group here in New York City, New York. We average between 20 25 million people per week, so in about 150 countries. So we are at a international level now. So we're really excited about that opportunity to speak truth to power.
Yeah, and congratulations on that, Bishop. It's an impressive audience, and you're doing a fantastic job. I think, as I said, we are, through the work we're doing together, reaching hopefully a new group of listeners who haven't heard about you before. And for those new listeners who are interested in financially supporting the global spiritual revolution, they can do that by going to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group. And people can make a financial contribution to your efforts there. You've already done a number of great, really informative and even shocking videos here on Crowdsource the Truth about eugenics, this concept by which the self-proclaimed intellectual, financial, and political elites decide who among us are worthy of life and who should be exterminated for, in their view, the betterment of mankind. And this goes back centuries. I'm certainly very interested in hearing what you're going to share with us today about how all of this relates to the Nation of Islam and the Church of Scientology. What have you prepared for us today, Bishop?
Let's unpack the Nation of Islam. We have to go back into its very beginnings, actually going back to really 1600. In order for us to understand the foreground of what's happening today concerning the Nation of Islam, including the Church of Scientology, we have to go back to its background. Now, the East India Company that was created on the 31st of December, 1600, they received a royal charter from Queen Elizabeth I, and officially they began to trade stocks. And we talked about that before, that the original stock and commodity was not Microsoft or IBM or Frito-Lay, but the stock was indigenous African slaves. Also, there were Indian slaves and Arabic slaves as well. So the East Indian Company, that was financially backed by the Rothschilds later on in the late 1700s. The East India Company ruled India from 1757 to 1858, and the British Crown through King George V overtook India from 1858 to 1947. So through this 190 years of colonization of the indigenous Indian people, the British Empire, through both the Dutch East India Company, including through the Bank of England, through the Crown, with Rothschild money backing this whole conspiracy later in the 1700s. So out of the government of Great Britain, they colonized the nation of India for a period of 190 years. Now, to understand the Nation of Islam in the spirit, in the psychology of the Nation of Islam, we have to go back to the 1300s. There was a secret society, Jason, called the Thuggee Secret Society. I kid you not. Capital THUGGEE. This is where we get the term thug life. And to all of our young people, listen to this. Again, I'm laying the foundation that goes back to the origin, okay? To the very beginning that gave birth to the spirit of the Nation of Islam. So this Thuggee secret society, which was a cult of assassins in India, that actually murdered over 4 million people from the 1300s all the way up to the early part of the 1900s. And so their main goal was to destroy the British Empire by murdering and pillaging and plundering, and they were a secret society of bandits. But it's interesting here, as we get into the crux of the Nation of Islam, is that their god or their goddess was the goddess Kali, capital Kali, which in Hindu and also through the Sanskrit, it has two interpretations: life, but it also means Devi, D-E-V-I, from which we get the word diva, no pun intended for the women listening, from which we get the term divination. So this god or goddess that the Thuggee secret society, a secret society of assassins, long before the Jesuits came on the scene, they were murdering 40,000 people a year, all right, from the 1300s up until the early part of the 19th century.
40,000 people a year, Bishop?
Well, 40,000 people a year, according to the Oxford Dictionary of Indian History.
That's over 100 per day.
Exactly. Matter of fact, at one time at their peak, Jason, in 1805, this Thuggee secret society had over 2.5 million assassins, all right?
Wow.
But their goddess is Kali, which means life, also which means diva or divination, from whence we get the term divination, life. So thug life, that's where we get the acronym for thug life. And by the way, not to sidetrack us here today, but all of the blood and crypt signs, the hand signs of the modern gang industrial complex came from not only the Thuggee secret society going back to the 1300s, but also to the skulls and bones. And to your listeners, you can always look up skulls and bones on any Google search and talk about gang hand signs in relation to the skulls and bones. So the present day gang system in the United States, they have no idea where the spirit or their mindset came from. So to understand the spirit of the Nation of Islam, and also the spirit of Louis Farrakhan, we have to go back to the 1300s for this thuggy secret society. Now, there were two members, Jason. We're laying the foundation concerning eugenics, the eugenics of identity politics, as we are dissecting, discombobulating the Nation of Islam. There were two Islamic teachers that came up out of the thuggy secret society. One by the name of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, capital M-I-R-Z-A, then capital Ghulam, then capital A-H-M-A-D. He was born in the Akkadian Sikh Empire that was under British rule. Now, he was the founder of the Ahmadiyya movement, capital A-H-M-A-D-I-Y-Y-A. Now, the Ahmadiyya movement gave birth, Jason, to the radical sectarian Islamic section of Islam called the Mujahideen.
Oh.
Capital M-U-J-A-H-I-D-W-E-N. It not only means a warrior or one that struggles, but the term Mujahideen, it comes from the acronym word Mujahid, or that which is hidden, capital M-U-J-A-H-I-D, from whence we get the term jihad, which means destruction, which
now, Bishop,
means...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're saying some really important things, and I just want to underscore. First of all, you've just said a phrase that I've never heard before, the gang industrial complex. And I also want to separately remind listeners who maybe haven't heard of the Mujahideen or haven't heard it in a while, I understood it to mean army of God, and certainly in the context of what was happening in Afghanistan in the 1980s, that's how it was used in the United States. I'm showing a photo right now of alleged journalist Jamal Khashoggi hanging out with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, brandishing a rocket-propelled grenade.
Isn't that interesting? And God rest his soul, John McCain had close connections to the Mujahideen by selling weapons on the black market. Okay, to Al-Qaeda and to the Taliban, another topic for another day. So this Mirza Ahmad is the founder of this Ahmadi, capital A-H-M-A-D-I-Y-Y-A movement in both India and Pakistan. Now, during that time, going back to the 1700s, Pakistan, along with Afghanistan and Sri Lanka, was all one nation entitled India. So there was no Pakistan back then. So this Mirza Ahmad then is training a young man that he would send to the United States to establish, Jason, the first caliphate in America in the 1920s by targeting Black America.
Wow.
Which gives birth to the Nation of Islam. So the Mujahideen, those 19 hijackers, 9/11, all of them were of the sect called the Mujahideen. A lot of them came from Saudi Arabia, all right? Remember the 1979 to 89 Afghan-Soviet War. The Mujahideen had defeated the Soviet Union, also which gave birth to Al-Qaeda in the Taliban. And because Al-Qaeda in the Taliban, including the Muslim Brotherhood, Jason, are all creatures of the CIA. So the CIA had created the Mujahideen, the present day the Mujahideen, which means destruction. Now, a lot of Islamic scholars would tell you, Bishop, it doesn't mean destruction. It means a warrior That it does, but it also means that which has become radical. And according to the Central Intelligence Agency, there are over 120 groups worldwide in 13 categories of these global Islamic terrorists that you can research on Wikipedia. So as we're laying the foundation here concerning eugenics, the eugenics of identity politics. So he trains this young man, and it's very interesting. Again, the Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, capital Ahmad, is the founder of the Ahmadiyya, capital Ahmadiyya. Interesting, mad. So then he trains his Islamic spiritual son and teaches him Sharia law, which is the code of conduct for Muslim life. And the term Sharia means, get this, Jason, the clear, well-trodden path to water. Notice to our listeners, clear. That is interconnection to the Church of Scientology many, many centuries later, okay? Clear. I'm going to get to that, if not today, then next week. So here is another young man that he teaches. His name is Dr. Mufti Muhammad Sadiq, capital M-U-F-T-I, then Muhammad, then Sadiq, capital S-A-D-I-Q. Now, it's interesting, Jason, and to our listeners, he was born in 1872, all right, in the British India section called Baria, Punjab, which today is eastern Pakistan. And later on, I'm going to reveal that the founder of the Nation of Islam, Wallace D. Muhammad, or Wallace D. Ford, or Fard's grandparents came from the same section of eastern Pakistan called Baria, Punjab. That's a revelation. So then, this Dr. Mufti Muhammad Sadiq, and which is laying the foundation concerning the eugenics of identity politics as we are unlayering and unpeeling the Nation of Islam. So Dr. Sadiq is sent to America to establish the first Islamic caliphate. Now, the term caliphate means ruler or chief Muslim, okay? Their goal is to target Black America. Now, the question is, how could Dr. Mufti Muhammad Sadiq, representing, in actuality, the Thuggee secret society in the Mujahideen, be allowed to leave British India? Now, at the time here, we're going here now in 1920. So then, Dr. Mufti Muhammad Sadiq, born in 1872, is commissioned by the Mujahideen, specifically Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, to go to America, Jason, to establish Islam in the United States of America. Who allows these people to have access to America? Well, the British Empire, notice the Dutch India Company gave control over the Indian Empire to the British Crown, specifically King George V, beginning in 1858, all the way up to 1947, when India gained their independence. So then Dr. Sadiq, with the backing, Jason, and check this out, with the backing of not only the Crown out of England and from the Parliament, with the financial backing of the Bank of England that was wholly controlled in 1920 by the Rothschild banking arm in Great Britain, specifically through Sir Walter Rothschild, the second Baron Rothschild in Great Britain, and allows this man, Dr. Mufti Sadiq, to have the finances and the permission to leave British-controlled India to go to the United States of America. And specifically, Dr. Sadiq traveled from England to the United States. But the Crown allowed this, Jason. What business does the British Crown, the Bank of England, and Walter Rothschild, the second Baron, who controls the Bank of England during that time, even though he was not the official director of the Bank of England, why would these powerful entities allow Dr. Mufti Sadiq to leave the confines of the British Empire in India, but specifically from England, to take a ship and sail to the United States?
Why? To take over.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so fascinating. And again, we're just kind of laying the foundation for the Nation of Islam here, as we're talking about the eugenics of identity politics here. The U.S. immigration. So Dr. Sadiq leaves England January 26, 1920. He docks at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 2 weeks later in the second week in February of 1920. But U.S. immigration is blocking Dr. Sadiq's entry on the grounds that he would create a caliphate in America and to create what they call polygamy. And there's another word for polygamy, is polygyne, capital P-O-L-Y, then G-Y-N-G, which means polygamy. So the U.S. Customs was going to send him back, not to England, but to Eastern India, specifically Pakistan. Guess who allowed this mujahideen killer, and radical Islamic terrorists, whose roots are in this thuggy secret society, thug-like, to enter the United States of America?
Who?
President Woodrow Wilson.
Why?
So then, in order to neutralize Black America, and going back to the 1920s, it was the mindset of J. Edgar Hoover, and through the FBI. Actually, the name FBI did not become an official name until 1935. It was the Bureau of Investigations up until 1935, and then it was the FBI thereafter. The FBI, or the Bureau of Investigations, did not want a Black messiah in the United States. And I know a lot of our white brothers and sisters may or may not understand this. So you and I have been talking about COINTELPRO, right?
Yep.
And which started in 1956 and supposedly did end in 1971, which I don't believe that it has ended. But the term COINTELPRO means the counterintelligence from whence we get the term PSYOP, So the term PSYOP means psychological warfare, to manipulate the emotions, the mindset, and the political policy of a organization, a person, a place, a thing, a government. So that's PSYOP. But President Woodrow Wilson, with the backing of the global elite, allows this terrorist to enter the United States of America. Why? To establish the first caliphate, beginning with Black America in 1920. So as we're laying this foundation that's going to give birth to the Nation of Islam, we're talking about the eugenics of identity politics. So then President Woodrow Wilson, who signed 7 years earlier the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, that now in 7 years later in 1920, he allows Dr. Mufti Muhammad Sadiq to enter the United States of America in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with the backing of the British Crown from King George V, okay, the House of Rothschilds, Walter Rothschild, the second Rothschild Baron, who controlled, Jason, not only the Bank of England, but also the banks, the Central Bank of India and the Reserve Bank of India, have given financial backing to an Islamic radical teacher. Now, Albert Pike once said that World War III will happen when Christianity and Islam destroys each other. This is the goal of the global elite. So then he comes into the country and establishes mosque in New York City, Chicago, Illinois, and then Detroit, Michigan, which becomes the home of the Nation of Islam on July the 4th, 1930.
Were these the first mosques in the United States, Bishop?
Actually, the official, now a lot of people from the Moorish Science Temple of America, which I'm going to get to concerning Timothy Drew or Noble Drew Ali in the next 2 minutes, they will tell you that they were the first mosque. Well, the Moorish Science Temple of America is not an official Islamic organization, okay? Even though they're telling Black America that they are. They're nothing more than spiritual mystics who are teaching a combination, Jason, of Egyptian magic, reincarnation, and Kabbalistical teachings, which is Jewish mysticism.
Right.
I'm going to come to that in 5 minutes, but that's a great question. But the official orthodoxy of Islam began in February of 1920. Here comes Timothy Drew. Now, Timothy Drew is a young African American, born January 8, 1886. He's born in North Carolina, and he travels. Now, he is a false prophet, okay? He's teaching that he is the reincarnation of Jesus Christ and the reincarnation of Buddha and Muhammad, okay? So then Timothy Drew travels first to Newark, New Jersey, 1913, and establishes the Canaanite Temple. Again, the Moorish Science Temple people would tell you that they are the first Islamic organization. No, they are not, okay? It was Dr. Mufti Sadiq, okay, later through the Black Consciousness movement, established the first caliphate or Islamic orthodoxy in America. So,
Bishop,
Timothy,
sorry,
yes, sir,
when you mentioned the Canaanite temple,
yeah.
I can't remember, my limited religious education reminds me that Canaan was the original name of the land of Israel.
Ooh, say that again. Say that again to our listeners, because what you just said was so powerful. Say that again, Jason, please.
Well, what I was saying is that even with my limited religious education, I do recall being taught that Canaan was the original name for the land of Israel.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say something, Jason, that may sound radical. Again, you are a great host, and I'm glad that you're asking these questions. There is a great portion of the United States of America, of Black America, who believe that Black America are the original Jews, okay? And this was the teaching of Timothy Drew, who later became Noble Drew Ali.
Right.
And part of his teaching was that every Hebrew is a Jew, but not every Jew is a Hebrew. And there's a portion of Black America, Jason, who are teaching here. And what I'm about to say, I am not being disrespectful to my Jewish brothers and sisters, but this is the sick mindset, okay, of people like Timothy Drew and later Wallace D. Ford or Fard in the Nation of Islam. So Timothy Drew was teaching that the present day Jews or Jewry are nothing more than Khazarian Jews, out of the present-day Khazarian Empire, which is called Turkey. Okay, to me, that's anti-Semitic teaching. So again, what you just said, it really hit a nerve with me, Jason. So now Timothy Drew starts this Canaanite temple, and he teaches, again, a combination of Egyptian magic, okay? That he teaches that each and every individual is the incarnation of themselves, okay? He teaches the doctrine of the Rosh Hashanah, okay? He teaches the Kabbalistical teachings, which is Eastern or Jewish mystical teachings, okay? He taught that every human being has chakras. Right. And all chakras means that the human body has 7 portals of energy. Jason, that's witchcraft, okay? I'll probably come back to that later on, God willing. So Timothy Drew stays in New Jersey from 1913 to 1925. So it's very interesting, Jason, that he leaves Newark, New Jersey in 1925, okay, and then a year later registers a new ministry called the Moorish Science Temple of America. That his teaching is that every black person are the descendants of the Moabites. And this is where we get the term Moors or Moorish.
The only other time I've ever heard of the Moors is in that movie, there's that scene where Dennis Hopper gets killed by Christopher Walken. True Romance talks about the Moors conquering Sicily.
Yes, and to all of our listeners, if you get a chance, look up President Obama back in 2010 signed the UN Declaration of Status, Executive Order 13107, acknowledging indigenous peoples within the United States, including Moorish people.
Whoa.
That's not by accident. All right. So the Moors, Jason, they call Barack Obama the Black Sun, S-U-N, and that he is the 7th seal of God. Again, this is a cult. This Moorish Science Temple of America is a cult. So
I think I've got the wrong, sorry, Bishop, I've got the wrong executive order. Could you just give me that number one more time?
Yeah, the executive order 13107, 2010, 13107. Barack Obama signed the UN Declaration of Status for Indigenous People. Okay. I don't know if that order was overruled or canceled or not by President Trump. It might have been.
Well, we'll check it later because I've got one from 1998 with 13107.
Yes, but he signed and another. That's a great lookup. But also in 2010, 12 years later, he signs Executive Order 13107. But we'll come back to that if we have time. Not today, the next week. So then, if all of our listeners, if you get a chance, look up President Obama in the Moroccan flag. That's the Moors. It's a red flag with a green star, which is really the Star of Baphomet. Okay? The logo or the insignia of the global Luciferian order. Obama and Michelle Obama comes out of the White House, and then probably on the left side of Barack Obama, it has that Moroccan flag, which the Moorish Science Temple of America is their official flag. Again, notice the term science means conscience or consciousness. So they also taught the power of mind control, which we will get into, if not today, then next week, concerning MK Ultra. Okay, so this is beginning to give birth because of Dr. Mufti Siddiq the birth of the first caliphate, but they are manipulating Black emotions and Black suffering in the 1920s in order for the global elite, through radical Islamic terrorism and doctrine, to take over the United States of America. Now, the building, there was the main headquarters back in the 1920s of the Moorish Science Temple of America was at 3140 in South Indiana Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. And you can look that up right now, Jason. I believe 3140 South Indiana Avenue. Now, if all of our listeners, if you can type in Moorish Science Temple of America's Convention 1928. Moorish Science Temple of America's Convention 1928. Now, there's a lot of Black scholars, Jason, that say that the founder of the Nation of Islam is in that picture as a member of the 1928 convention of the Moorish Science Temple of America in Chicago, Illinois. On the upper left-hand corner, many Black African-centric scholars say that is the future founder of the Nation of Islam, who they call Master Farad Muhammad.
Now, Bishop, can you see the image on the screen share right there and direct us to exactly who that is?
Absolutely.
I think it's this guy.
Absolutely. So this is very interesting, and thank you so much for showing this image. Very important here. Now, in front here, we see on the right-hand side of the woman in front, the front row, that's Noble Drew Ali. Okay?
Standing.
Yeah. He's standing with a Masonic order sign. Now, many times, if your listeners get an opportunity, just type in the hidden hand of the Masonic order, the hidden hand of the Masonic order, and in many pictures going probably the last 700 to 800 years, you'll see leaders like Stalin and Lenin and Trotsky and those that were around Abraham Lincoln and Napoleon have their right hand or their left hand inside of their jacket pocket. That's a Masonic order sign. There you go. That's a Masonic order sign. Thank you so much, Jason. Okay. That means they are the master of the next veil. Even Barack Obama and Stalin. Okay. So this is a sign here of the hidden hand. Wow. Now, in 1928, getting back, and those are great pictures you're showing, Jason. Getting back to the Moorish Science Temple of America's photo of the congregation standing outside of that building, on the left-hand side of the woman, the front row, is a man by the name of Claude Green. Now, this is interesting, Jason. Claude Green was the butler for Julius Rosenwald.
Who was that again?
You and I have been talking about for the past several weeks, the founder and the director of the Sears Roebuck Company.
Right.
So that is Claude Green, the taller gentleman on to everyone's right, okay, but to the woman's left, who later is murdered by the captains of Noble Drew Ali because he was about to expose Noble Drew Ali as a fraud. See, what I'm doing is laying the foundation for the Nation of Islam. Now, as we go up to the top left-hand corner, you'll see a light-complected man with a bow tie and with maybe a white suit jacket or a light beige suit jacket with a red turban on or kufi, okay? Now, many Islamic scholars, Orthodox scholars, say that is Wallace D. Ford or Fard, who went on to create the Nation of Islam. 2 years later, in Detroit, Michigan, July 4th, 1939, on July 4th, 1939. Now, you know what, Jason?
Yeah.
Minister Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam, they were denied this to their dying breath. They were said that that was not Wallace D. Ford, or who they call Master Farad Muhammad, who is nothing but a fraud. I am going to systematically expose this. So Noble Drew Ali was a very wealthy man, okay? Had 17 temples around the United States of America. And notice here, now we're coming up here, and this is very interesting here. The future leader and the founder of the Nation of Islam, okay, was a young man by the name of Wallace Dodd Ford, okay, that according to the FBI, Jason, had 58 aliases.
Whoa.
This is the Nation of Islam's God. They say that this man is the manifestation of God, okay. Now, in a 1933 letter that he wrote to Elijah Muhammad a year before he disappeared from Detroit, because the Detroit Police Department and the FBI was after him, Jason, Wallace Dodd Ford, the founder of the Nation of Islam, for murder. I'm going to get to that in a few minutes.
Is this a white guy, Bishop?
He was a white guy.
Yeah.
According to, yes, there you, yeah. Thank you. Stay right there, Jason. Excellent. According to author Carl Evans, capital E-V-A-N-Z-Z, he wrote a book in 1993 called The Judas Factor, The Plot to Kill Malcolm X. Okay, I'm going to be talking about Malcolm X in the next 10 to 15 minutes, if we have time. Hopefully we go over for about 5 to 10 minutes. So quickly here, Wallace Dodd Ford, according to Carl Evans, who is one of the leading authorities on the history or the origins of the Nation of Islam, said in his research that Wallace Dodd Ford was a white man that was born in New Zealand.
Whoa.
On the 25th of February, 1893. Oh. But the Wikipedia in the Nation of Islam would tell us, no, Bishop, he was born on February the 26th, 1877. That's a lie.
Wow.
Okay.
Bishop, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but these numbers, I think, have some significance for some people. I'm noticing that Carl Evans' book was published on September 19th, 1993. That's 9191993. The 9-3 Society is linked to Aleister Crowley.
Really?
And
wow.
I don't abide by numerology, but I observe it because I think it's important to some of the people that we're talking about.
Can you repeat that again, Jason? Because I'm getting some emails coming in from people saying that, and what you just said just blew their minds. Repeat what you just said, because you're blowing people's minds. Go right ahead.
Sure. I don't practice or know very much at all about numerology, but I know that it is important to some of these secret societies that we're talking about. And as you mentioned, this book, which I've never heard of before, Carl Evans, The Judas Factor, it's published on September 19th, 1993, which is 9191993, a very clear indication of the 9-3 Society. It's 3 9s in a row and then a 9-3.
That is not by accident.
Right.
And to everyone, that's not by accident. And then later on in the program, I'm going to reveal to you through Carl Evans in his book that he says that Elijah Muhammad, who eventually took over the Nation of Islam in 1934 and moved the organization from Detroit to Chicago, was paid $33,000
really
by H.L. Hunt, a white oil man in Texas.
Who was directly linked to the JFK assassination. He owns the school book depository.
Yes. And not to get ahead of us, but H.L. Hunt is the same guy who was paying, and Malcolm exposes, that's why they killed him, he was paying $100,000 a year to Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam. But at the same time, Jason, H.R. Hunt was paying the KKK $100,000 a year, including the Nazi Party of America, George Lincoln Rockwell.
Wow. So this is basically the same exact type of agitation that we've heard about coming from George Soros, where he sends a bus to Charlottesville that has Black Lives Matter members and Antifa members on the same bus, so they spill out onto the streets and it's like ready-made violence.
See, H.R. Hunt, Hilton Lafayette Hunt, met with a group of some of the most powerful individuals in this nation the night before the JFK assassination, okay? Yes. We're talking about with LBJ. They met in the house of Clint Murchison Sr., whose son, Clint Murchison Jr., is the founder of the Dallas Cowboys, okay? Ooh. I'll get to that in a few minutes. Oh, this is heavy, man. Yeah. So then, now Wallace Dodd Ford, interesting. Now, he has an interesting background. He was born in New Zealand, but his grandparents immigrated, who were British white people, immigrated from Eastern India, which is now Eastern Pakistan, came from the same geographical location that Dr. Mufti Muhammad Siddiq came from. When you connect these historical dots, it will blow the mind concerning eugenics. We're talking about eugenics here today on Crowdsource the Truth. And we're talking about exposing identity politics. So then, not just the plot to kill Malcolm X by Carl Evans, but you got the assassination of Malcolm X by George Bretman, and you got the book Malcolm X, The Assassination by Michael Friedley. Now, Wallace Dodd Ford immigrates to the United States, okay, at the age of 20 within the year of 1913. So he immigrates from New Zealand and moves to Portland, Oregon. And this is according to the FBI file, okay? All you have to do is just go to vault.fbi.gov, vault.fbi.gov, and it shows you real-time declassified memos concerning the Moorish Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, all right? All the parts of the COINTELPRO that was instituted through J. Edgar Hoover. Wallace Dodd Ford is 20 years old when he comes to the United States from New Zealand to Portland, Oregon in 1913, then moves to the state of Washington for the half of the year, from June all the way to December of 1913. Then interesting, Jason, then he moves to Newark, New Jersey. And joins the Canaanite Temple in early 1914. Who pastors that church? Noble Drew Ali.
Right. Bishop, I think we should mention, sorry to interrupt, but there's an active shooting happening right now in Jersey City, which is very close to Newark. And if I'm not mistaken, that blind sheikh who was the head of the crew that tried to bomb the World Trade Center in 1993 was also in Newark.
And you know what, my friend, not to get ahead of us, but one of the assassins of Malcolm X was a man by the name of William X. Bradley. Anyone can look him up. William X. Bradley, who was one of the assassins that took out Malcolm X on the 21st of February, 1965. And mind you, Jason, not to get ahead of us, the week before Malcolm's assassination, guess who bought the Audubon Ballroom? A company called Circle Group.
What?
Out of the UK.
Holy cow.
This year. Yes, a week before the assassination, and I'll send you that information. The week before, why would Circle, that then in 1965 was controlled by MI6. What business would MI6 have anything to do with Malcolm X? We'll come to that in about 10 minutes' time. Now, this Wallace Dodd Ford, 20 years old, comes from New Zealand, lives in Portland, Oregon, moves to the East Coast to Newark, New Jersey, and then he doesn't go, when he leaves Newark, New Jersey, he doesn't go to Chicago, Illinois yet to follow Noble Drew Ali. He goes out west to Los Angeles, California, okay? Now, again, Wallace Dodd Ford has 58 aliases, okay? So then, this is interesting here. So when we talk about the Judas Factor that was written by Carl Evans, as we're just exposing the Nation of Islam here today, I'm not downcasting any individual. I have a friend who is a minister in the Nation of Islam. I'm not going to say his name or mosque he pastors. But I've been telling my friend for years about this information, that the Nation of Islam is nothing but a cult. So Wallace Dodd Ford, or Fard, capital F-A-R-D, arising in the United States in 1913, lives in Portland, Oregon, goes to Washington State, okay, goes to Newark, New Jersey for a while, being a part of Timothy Drew's, Noble Ali's temple, Canaanite temple, then moves to Los Angeles, California, okay, in 1918, and becomes a cook at a restaurant at 803 West 3rd Street. This is in the FBI affidavit, okay, of 1918. Also, one of the main whistleblowers from the Nation of Islam, a man by the name of Omar Shabazz, who is now a movie maker here in New York City, has been exposing the Nation of Islam. And according to not only Carl Evans and the Judas Factor, the plot to kill Malcolm X, but also according to Omar Shabazz, he's a whistleblower, including Lance Shabazz, a second whistleblower. These men said that their god, their former god, Wallace Dodd Ford, was a cook at a restaurant in Los Angeles at 803 West 3rd Street, okay?
Ooh, that's in Santa Monica. I've been by there.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Let's take a look at that. 803 West 3rd Street?
West 3rd Street, yes, sir.
Could be downtown Los Angeles, actually.
Let's take a look at that. That's very fascinating here. And this is fascinating here today. I love to teach about history as a historian. So we're talking about eugenics, okay? Concerning identity politics, starting with the Nation of Islam. So in 1918, Wallace Dodd Ford, or Fard, F-A-R-D, severely beats a patron, okay, at a restaurant, a young man by the name of P.W. Gillibrand, okay? I don't think he's related to the present Senator Gillibrand, but no. P.W. Gillibrand, he almost beats Mr. Gillibrand to death for not paying for his meal.
Whoa. So
then he is arrested for pistol whipping this patron, okay? Now, according to Dr. Erdman Bion...
Bishop, I have to warn you, we're in this condition that we had last week, which never happens on any other show other than yours. I'm not able to use web pages anymore, and this preceded a total shutdown last time.
Wow.
We're not sure. We're playing with fire, exactly.
Yes. Well, maybe we don't touch anything. So this is interesting here. So in a 1938 article in the American Journal of Sociology by Dr. Urban Dome Bion, he says concerning that Wallace D. Ford, or Fard, was arrested in 1918, okay? Now, on the 20th of January, 1926, W.D. Ford, or Fard, was arrested for violating the California prohibition law for selling and distributing alcohol. This is Farrakhan's God. This is the Nation of Islam God.
He's a criminal.
He's a criminal. According to Carl Evans, the author of the Judas Plot, okay, that this man, Wallace D. Fard, Fred Fard or Ford, was a bootlegger, was a prostitution pimp, was a killer, and he was a seller and a distributor of alcohol during the Prohibition era. He's arrested. Yes, he's arrested on the 20th of January, 1926. He's also arrested again a month later, February 1926, for selling narcotics, drugs in his restaurant.
Wow.
He was sentenced to 3 years in San Quentin, according to the FBI, from 1926 to 1929. If you get a chance, Jason, just type in the mugshot of Wallace D. Ford or Fard, San Quentin Prison. Type it in. It will show you a...
I think I just lost you, Bishop. This only happens on your show. I'm doing 4 shows a day, and this doesn't happen. And we get the Bishop on, and there it is. And that's the end of Bishop's show, unfortunately. Well, I apologize to everyone. That's amazing, the second week in a row. I don't know what to say. We'll be back next week with the Bishop. I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope that people will support the global spiritual revolution by going to paypal.me/GSSR Media Group. And please also become a sponsor of Crowdsource the Truth by going to patreon.com/crowdsource the truth or subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. I'm going to tend to this computer issue, and hopefully I'll be back with you at 3 p.m. with Larry Nichols. My apologies to the Bishop. We're going to figure out what's going on. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times next week would be a pattern. Thanks for watching, everybody.